Tonight we're diving deep into why I originally thought Pokémon Sun and Moon was bad. However, you'll soon find out why I was wrong. But before we begin our journey into Pokémon lore, I want to take a moment to welcome you. Whether this is your first night here, or you've made stellar sleep part of your nightly routine. For those of you who've been joining us consistently, I want to thank you for being such an integral part of our channel. Be sure to share this video with someone you know who loves Pokémon. If you're falling asleep with us tonight, let me know in the comments how many nights in a row you've been here. And if this is your first night, just comment day 1. I'll be tracking our progress right alongside you. Now, let's get back to the video. In November 2016, the Pokémon community experienced a collective heart attack. After 3 years of the high-octane shonen-inspired masterpiece that was the XY series, we were greeted with a teaser trailer that felt like a prank. Gone was the sharp, cool, mature Ash Ketchum who had just nearly won the Kalos League. In his place stood a rubbery, wide-eyed kid with mustache-shaped birthmarks, making goofy faces in a tropical paradise. The art style hadn't just changed, it had melted. People called it childish. They called it a downgrade. They said the anime was finally dead. I was one of those people. I looked at the school setting, the lack of traditional gyms and the slapstick comedy, and I checked out. I thought Pokémon Sun and Moon was bad. I was wrong. I was so incredibly wrong. What I didn't realize back then was that the Pokémon company wasn't trying to make a worse version of what came before. They were trying to do something the anime had never dared to do in 20 years of television. They were trading the rigid, predictable formula of the badge quest for something far more dangerous and far more rewarding: a soul. For over 2 decades, Ash Ketchum was a nomad. He was a boy who moved from town to town, meeting people he would never see again, catching Pokémon he would eventually leave behind, and chasing a dream that always seemed to reset every time he crossed a regional border. Sun and Moon changed the stakes. It grounded him. It gave him a home, a family, and a community. It traded the breadth of a continent for the depth of an island. But why does that matter? Why should you care about a series that looks like a Saturday morning cartoon when its predecessor looked like a cinematic epic? Because beneath that bouncy animation and the colourful shores of Alola lies the most emotionally complex, daring, and human story the franchise has ever told. This is the series that stopped treating Pokémon as just tools for battle and started treating them as living beings that experience loss, trauma, and even death. This is the series that took the most famous loser in anime history and asked the question, what happens if he actually stops running? What happens if he stays in one place long enough to actually grow up? The stakes of Sun and Moon aren't just about winning a trophy. They are about the trauma of a young girl who is physically unable to touch the creatures she loves because of a hidden family horror. They are about a stray Litten mourning the literal death of its mentor in the rain. They are about a villain like Guzma, who isn't trying to destroy the world with a legendary bird, but is instead a broken man trying to burn down a system that he felt abandoned him. This series tackled themes that the Pokémon anime usually avoids at all costs, and it did so while maintaining a sense of joy and wonder that the franchise had arguably lost. How did we get here? How did a show that looked like a regression end up being the very thing that finally gave Ash Ketchum his first regional championship after 22 years? Was the art style actually a stroke of genius that allowed for better movement and expression, or was it just a cost-cutting measure? Why did the removal of gym leaders actually make the world feel more dangerous? And most importantly, how did the Alola region manage to turn a repetitive marketing tool into a genuine coming-of-age masterpiece? Over the next 3 hours, we're going to deconstruct everything. We're going to look at the 146 episodes that make up the Sun and Moon era, from the very first Z move to that historic final clash in the Alola League. We're going to analyse the shift in animation philosophy, the brilliance of the supporting cast, and the way this series redefined what it means to be a Pokémon master. Whether you loved it from day one, or like me, you walked away because you couldn't handle the new look, it is time to return to the islands. It is time to look past the goofy faces and see the heart of a champion. This is the story of why Pokémon Sun and Moon isn't just a good series, it might actually be the best one. Let's dive in. When the first episode of Pokémon the series, Sun and Moon hit screens on November 17th, 2016, Ash Ketchum looked like a stranger in his own story. Fans who had just binged through the high-octane battles of the XY series froze at their screens. Pikachu still sparking with that familiar intensity beside him, but Ash himself, his face rounded out, his proportions softened, his lines blurred into something almost watercolour-like. This wasn't the sharp-jawed hero who'd clashed with megas and legendaries in crisp, angular glory. This was a boy who seemed to melt into the sun-drenched beaches of Alola, his eyes bigger, his chin slimmer, his entire silhouette flowing like the ocean waves crashing behind him. The backlash erupted instantly, a tidal wave crashing across forums and social feeds. Twitter timelines filled with cries of betrayal. What did they do to Ash? While Reddit threads on our Pokémon ballooned into the thousands, dissecting every frame of that premiere. Not my Ash became the rallying cry, echoing through DeviantArt rants and YouTube comment sections, where veterans mourned the loss of XY's razor-sharp aesthetic. That style forged in the fires of high-stakes duels, where every muscle flex and aura flare popped with precision. One fan post from late 2016 captured it perfectly. XY Ash was a warrior. This guy's a cartoon kid playing in the sand. The skepticism ran deep, fueled by years of expecting evolution, not revolution. Pokémon had always tweaked its look, but this felt like erasure, a deliberate softening after the adrenaline rush of Kalos. Yet beneath that uproar, Studio OLM had bet everything on this shift, a calculated gamble to trade rigid lines for something far more alive. XY's animation, directed under Kunihiko Uyama's watchful eye, prioritized dramatic poses and explosive impacts. Think Pikachu's thunderbolts slicing through the air like lightning-etched glass, or Greninja's water shuriken exploding in hyper-detailed shards. It was beautiful, but static in its beauty, built for arena clashes where every punch landed with unyielding clarity. Sun and Moon demanded different rhythms, the sway of palm trees under trade winds, the ripple of turquoise lagoons, the chaotic tumble of schoolyard romps and island trials. OLM's animators, led by series director Tetsuo Yajima, leaned into a soft style, deliberately fuzzy edges, exaggerated squash and stretch physics, faces that emoted through subtle smears rather than hard outlines. It was risky, born from late-night production meetings where they pored over Alola's game designs, realizing that sharp lines would choke the region's breathy, humid pulse. Picture the Alola Islands themselves dictating this change. Melemele, with its endless blue horizons and verdant cliffs, Akala's misty volcanoes, Hula-Ula's haunted sands, Pony's jagged wilds, all demanding animation that breathed with the environment. Traditional Pokémon journeys meant dusty gym paths and thunderous stadiums where battles froze time in heroic stances. But Alola? No gyms, just the fluid island challenge. Kahunas testing you amid crashing surf or swaying grasses. Z-moves erupting in swirling energy vortices that needed buttery motion, not brittle precision. OLM's team amplified this with chibi-inspired deformations, Ash comically flattening mid-dive into a tide pool, or Lycanroc bounding with elastic glee, prioritizing 60 frames per second of pure movement over photoreal edges. Test footage from early 2016 reportedly wowed internal previews, capturing Tapu Koko's electric dances as living storms, not stiff sprites. Fans didn't see the method at first, they saw dilution. Bulba Garden forums lit up with pixel-peeping comparisons. Side by side XY Ash, towering like a mecha pilot next to Sun and Moon Ash, who looked half his age, his hat perched on a head that bobbed with every step. They uglified him for chibi memes, one viral tweet snarled, sparking flame wars that drowned out the premiere's actual plot. Ash Lottery winning his way to Professor Kukoi's school. Pikachu zapping off a Malasada stand in humid twilight. The Not My Ash narrative dominated, peaking as episode after episode rolled out, with petitions circulating for a style revert. Even critics like those at Cerebi Net noted the divide. XY's polish had set an unreachable bar, and this felt like a demotion to Saturday morning fluff. But OLM knew the truth. This softness wasn't laziness, it was liberation. In XY, battles ate budgets on detail. Here, the fluid lines stretched resources across ensemble antics, like Lily tentatively petting her snowball of an Alolan Vulpix, or Kiawe's Turtonator shell-surfing lava flows with bouncy exaggeration. Animators like Hiramasa Amano pushed boundaries, blending 2D smears with CG assists for Z'd ring glows that pulsed like bioluminescent waves. Early metrics vindicated them. Japanese viewership held steady, and by mid-2017, as US dubs hit, a quiet convert faction emerged, praising how the style mirrored Alola's laid-back guardianship lore. The Tapu Protectors gliding like ethereal jellyfish, not armoured titans. That controversy simmered through the series' opening arcs, fans clinging to old Ash even as his new fluidity powered him through Rowlet's sleepy glides and Rockruff's midnight howls. It forced a reckoning. Could Pokémon grow beyond its template? The answers started unfolding in the everyday chaos of Pokémon School, where battles blurred into friendships, trials into triumphs, and a champion's path revealed itself in ways no one expected. Stick around for a new kind of journey, where we unpack how this visual rebellion sparked the most unconventional quest Ash ever chased. But once viewers adjusted to that softer, more fluid art style, a deliberate pivot from XY's sharp intensity, the deeper betrayal hit. For 20 years, since Ash first set foot in Kanto, chasing badges from misty gymnasiums shrouded in fog or lit by roaring flames, the Pokémon anime had followed one unbreakable rhythm: travel, challenge, evolve, repeat. Gym leaders weren't just opponents, they were milestones, etched into every fan's memory like Brock's Onyx crumbling rocks or Misty's Starmie slicing through waves. Removing them entirely? That felt like pulling the plug on the heart of the journey itself. Alola didn't have gyms, no brooding arenas guarded by elite trainers, doling out badges that clinked in Ash's case like promises of the Elite Four. Instead, the islands, those lush, sun-drenched paradises of Melemele with its verdant cliffs, Akala's blooming meadows, Ula Ula's stark volcanic peaks, and Pony's misty highlands, whispered a different call. Longtime fans scrolled through episode previews, hearts sinking as Ash traded his backpack for a school uniform, his Pikachu perched not on a wild trail, but in a classroom buzzing with tropical breezes through open windows. It was betrayal wrapped in palm fronds, a 20-year cycle shattered not by malice, but by bold reinvention. Enter Pokémon School on Melemilo Island, a sprawling campus where banyan trees draped like veils over sunlit lawns, and the ocean's rhythmic crash provided the backdrop to every lesson. This wasn't the nomadic travelogue of dusty roads and fleeting towns. It was a slice-of-life sitcom, episodes unfolding in the cozy rhythms of homeroom chatter, cafeteria mishaps, and after-school escapades. Professor Kukoi, with his laid-back grin and board shorts under a lab coat, stood at the chalkboard, not as a distant researcher like Oak, but as homeroom teacher, tossing Pokeballs mid-lecture while his bravery soared overhead. Principal Samson Oak, yes, that Oak's cousin, with his penchant for Pokémon puns that landed like gentle waves, welcomed Ash via a lottery won by the unlikeliest courier, Mr. Mime, or Mimey, delivering the news with theatrical flair. Ash's days now revolved around bells signalling trial prep or group projects dissecting ultra wormholes under the stars. Mornings began with Roll Call Pokémon, where classmates summoned their partners in a symphony of cries, Pikachu's spark joining Poplio's bubbly honk, Zarina's imperious stomp echoing off tiled halls. No more endless horizon chasing. Conflicts brewed in the schoolyard, resolved over shared lunches of malasadas sticky with sugar and sea salt. It was intimate, domestic, the kind of structure that let friendships simmer like a slow-cooked stew, revealing layers episode by episode. And those classmates? They weren't the standard travelling companions tagging along for Ash's solo spotlight. Lana, with her fisherman's poise, and Poplio's ballooning antics, hauled in primordial sea legends from dawn tides. Her quiet determination masking a family's watery legacy. Mallow, elbows deep in her family's restaurant kitchen, whipped up healing stews from forest berries. Her Zarina, line a testament to nurturing, turned fierce. Step wrong, and that drop kick lands like a scorned chef's spatula. Sophocles tinkered in the lab, his Togedemaru spinning like a charged pinwheel, inventions sparking literal fireworks during class demos, his shy genius blooming amid the group's chaos. Kiawe brought the fire, literally, his Turtonator's shell explosions syncing with traditional hula dances under Akala's lava glow. Sweat glistened muscles pushing through trials that tested spirit over strategy. Then Lily, porcelain pale with her oversized hat, shadowing wide eyes, clutching a Pokeball she couldn't bear to open. Her Cosmog, nicknamed Nebby, floated like a starry puff, but touching Pokémon? That was a bridge burned by family shadows, her journey from observer to toucher, unfolding in whispers. Together, they formed an ensemble, not rivals or sidekicks, but a found family orbiting Ash, their backstories weaving through school skits and beach barbecues, replacing badge hunts with bonds that felt earned in the everyday. Yet Alola wouldn't abandon challenge entirely. The Island Challenge emerged as the true heir to those gym dreams, a tradition rooted in guardianship, passed down like Mon's unspoken legacy of stewardship amid the island's wild heart. Kahunas, elder leaders embodying each island's soul, oversaw trials not in sterile gyms, but amid nature's fury, scaling waterfalls on Melemele, navigating Akala's ruins, thick with vines pulsing electric blue. Success earned Z crystals, shimmering gems channeling Z moves, cataclysmic bursts like Pikachu's Gigavolt Havoc, reality warping in golden auras as trainer and Pokémon synced in a dance of pure power. It all crystallized in Ash's first electric dawn. As he stumbled through Melamila Forest, vines parting like reluctant curtains, the guardian deity itself descended. Tapu Koko, electric sparrow of legend, cloaked in a shell that crackled like bottled lightning, hovered with otherworldly judgment. No words, just a test. Withstand its onslaught, prove your spark. Pikachu's cheeks flared, bolts clashing in a storm that shook palm fronds and scorched earth. Victory? A Z-ring, etched obsidian, pulsing on Ash's wrist, the first key to Alola's secrets. From that moment, school life fused with destiny, trials blending seamlessly into class schedules, Z-moves flashing during dodgeball or beach volleyball gone epic. This new rhythm pulsed with Alola's essence, blue skies streaked by winggull flocks, seas foaming turquoise around hidden coves, air heavy with plumeria and salt. Fans who once mourned the gymless void found themselves hooked on the warmth, the way Rowlet's sleepy blinks hid aerial prowess, or Rockruff's midnight howls foreshadowed Lycanroc's defiant loyalty. The betrayal faded, replaced by something richer, a journey not across maps, but into hearts. But amid the laughter and Z-moves, something lingered, unspoken. A shadow in the classroom corners that no trial could banish. Stick around for Chapter 3, The Ghost in the Room, where we uncover the chill that made Sun and Moon haunt in ways no previous season dared. Within the sunny rhythms of Pokémon School, where Ash and his classmates chased trials and tangled with Team Skull's bumbling antics, a shadow slipped in unnoticed at first. Episode 21, titled Litten to the Rescue, dropped like a quiet thunderclap, introducing not just a new Pokémon to Ash's team, but a raw confrontation with loss that the franchise had danced around for 2 decades. You remember how the series always pulled back from the edge? Pokémon fainted, sure, but they bounced back with a potion or a quick nap. Their world, a perpetual springtime of second chances. Sun and Moon shattered that illusion, right there in Alola's lush greenery. Litten, this scrappy fire kitten with a perpetual scowl and a tail that flicked like an unlit fuse, wasn't some random roadside find. No, he carried the weight of a story already etched in sorrow. Picture the scene on that misty Melamile shore, an elderly, stout land, his once mighty frame reduced to laboured breaths and trembling legs, barely able to stand against the waves. His fur matted, eyes dimmed by years of battles and tides, he clings to life with a dignity that hits you in the gut. Litten, barely more than a kitten himself, tends to this fading giant, fetching food, nuzzling close, even using his tiny ember attacks to warm the old dog's chilled body on rainy nights. It's not cute, it's heartbreaking. Litten grooms Stoutland's coat, shares meagre fish from his hunts, and stands guard as the sea crashes in, a pint-sized protector in a world that feels suddenly too vast and unforgiving. This wasn't played for laughs amid the show's bouncy animation and exaggerated expressions. The art style, that goofy chibi redesign fans had roasted in Chapter 1, suddenly amplified the tragedy. Stoutland's massive, blocky form slumps with a realism that defies the elastic poses elsewhere. His breaths rasp audibly, his movements slow to a crawl. Litten's wide eyes, usually narrowed in sass, soften into something vulnerable, mirroring the quiet desperation of real pet owners watching their companions slip away. Ash stumbles into this bond during one of his school-mandated Pokémon care assignments, and what unfolds is no filler episode. Litten resists joining him at first, torn between his loyalty to Stoutland and the pull of adventure. They clash. Litten scratches, hisses, bolts back to the beach every chance he gets. But as Stoutland weakens, the old Pokémon urges Litten forward with a final feeble nuzzle, passing the torch in a moment so tender it redefines mentorship in Pokémon lore. Then comes the gut punch. Stoutland passes peacefully on that shore, his body going still as the waves lap over him. No legendary intervention, no miracle berry from some hidden grove, no heartfelt cry summoning eternal youth, just death depicted with unflinching honesty. A Pokémon's life ending as nature intended, buried simply in the sand by his devoted friend. Litten mourns alone at first, flames flickering low, before finally accepting Ash's hand. He joins the team not as a powerhouse, but as a survivor carrying invisible scars. This episode aired in Japan on February 23rd, 2017, smack in the middle of Season 20's school life arc, and it rippled through the fandom like nothing before. Forums lit up with parents sharing stories of their own lost pets, kids grappling with the finality in ways the show had never demanded. Sun and Moon's creators at OLM and director Tetsuo Yajima leaned into Alola's lore of guardianship, tapu protectors watching over islands, cycles of life tied to the land, but twisted it toward mortality's unsparing truth. Where XY had high-octane battles and heroic sacrifices that always reversed, here grief lingers. Litten's evolutions later into Torracat and eventually Incineroar stem directly from this pain, his fiery rage a shield against vulnerability. That tonal shift redefined the series overnight, Fans who dismissed Sun and Moon as kiddie fluff after the sleek XY era paused, realizing the slice of life structure from our last chapter wasn't just sitcom filler. It was a vessel for depth, letting everyday settings cradle profound moments. The goofy animation, with its squash and stretch antics and vibrant colours, didn't undermine the emotion, it heightened it. Ash's rubber hose grins contrast Litton's stoic grief, making the loss pierce deeper, like laughter fading into silence at a funeral. Why did episode 21 change everything? Because it dared the impossible, treating Pokémon as mortal beings whose deaths matter, without cheapening the bond with resurrection tropes. Stoutland doesn't return as a ghost or reincarnate. His legacy lives in Litton's unyielding spirit, evolving through the Ultra Adventures arc into a league-dominating Incineroar who clashes with Kukui's own in the finals. This grounded Alola's whimsy, the Z moves, the school pranks, Rockruff's midnight howls in a resonant reality. Suddenly, every capture felt earned, every farewell weighted. Viewers who stuck around saw the payoff. Litton's arc threads through the island challenges, his fire not just for battling Team Skull grunts or Ultra Beasts, but as a defiant spark against oblivion. It echoed broader themes bubbling under Alola's surface. Guardians like Tapu Koko vanishing into wormholes, Kahunas reflecting on legacies, even Guzma's rage born from his own failures and unspoken losses. Sun and Moon wasn't shying from maturity, it was embracing it, proving a kid's show could handle the ache of goodbye without preaching. And as Litton's flames grew, so did the shadows around the other students. Take Lily, whose pristine world hid fractures far deeper than a beachside farewell, traumas tied to family, other dimensions, and losses that would soon demand her own reckoning. Up next in Chapter 4, Lily's silent trauma unravels how her story took that grief to shattering new heights, forcing even the most sheltered classmate to face the void staring back. While Litton grappled with the raw ache of losing Stoutland, forcing the young firecat to grow through grief's unyielding fire, another shadow lingered in the Pokémon school classroom, one that cut even deeper into the heart of what it means to connect in Alola. Lily, the poised girl, with platinum blonde hair, cascading like moonlight over her pristine white dress, stood apart from the chaos of battling Pokémon and carefree laughter. She watched her classmates, Lana reeling in Pokémon from the ocean's depths, Kiawe igniting the air with Turtonator's inferno, but her hands, delicate and trembling, never reached out. Not once. You could see it in the way she flinched, her wide green eyes widening further at the mere brush of fur or scale against her skin. Pokémon approached her with their innate curiosity, nuzzling close, only for her to recoil as if burned by something invisible. Why? In a world where 10-year-olds command legendary beasts and forge bonds that shatter mountains, Lily's fear wasn't just odd. It was a fracture running through the entire series, a silent scream echoing from episode 1. Ash and Pikachu barrel into her life during their first day at school. Pikachu's cheeky spark nearly singeing her skirt, and she freezes, whispering apologies to a creature she can't even touch. It's not shyness, it's trauma, etched so deep it halts her in place amid Alola's vibrant pulse. That mystery unravels slowly, like mist burning off the islands at dawn, revealing the Ether Foundation as the glittering cage behind it all. Paradise, sprawling white spires rising from Executor Island, a sanctuary where injured Pokémon float in pristine pods, healed by scientists in flowing lab coats. Lusamine, Lily's mother and the Foundation's president, reigns from its core, her voice smooth as silk over broadcast screens, promising eternal care. But cracks spiderweb through the facade from the start. Lily arrives at school carrying a massive shoulder bag, her partner Pokémon hidden inside, not battling, not playing, just there, safe, separate, The Foundation's grunts hover like watchful ghosts, whisking her away in luxury shuttles that scream old money and isolation. Whispers of family fracture seep in through stolen glances and hushed phone calls. Her brother Gladion appears early, a silver-haired rival cloaked in black leather, Zoroark at his side snarling defiance. He warns Ash away from Lily, with eyes like shattered emeralds, hinting at secrets buried under the ether's sterile gleam. Their father, a ghost in conversation, absent, perhaps lost to the same voids that birthed Ultra Beasts. Lucamine's obsession with those otherworldly invaders, buzzing horrors ripping through Ultra wormholes, mirrors a home where love twists into control, where Pokémon become specimens, not friends. Lily's inability to touch them stems from this. A childhood steeped in observation, not embrace. Her mother's experiments leaving scars that make every paw a potential threat. The series wields this fear like a master storyteller's thread, weaving it through the first 50 episodes as the quiet engine driving every trial and tear. Ash's rowdy energy clashes against her reserve. He drags her into beach picnics, where Poplio splashes too close, or forest romps where Roulette crash lands in her lap. Each near touch builds tension, her classmates chipping at her walls, with patience born of Alola's communal spirit. Mallow brews healing stews that draw Pokémon near. Sophocles rigs gadgets to keep them at bay. Yet Lily remains the outsider in her own story. It's her arc that humanizes the school sitcom, turning fluffy adventures into a meditation on trust. Without her silence, the early episodes lose their undercurrent of stakes. Why bond when Pokémon School feels like just another playground? Lily's terror reminds you, these creatures hold power to heal or haunt. Then comes the pivot, the moment that cracks her world open like a hatching egg. Deep in episode 20, amid icy peaks on Akala Island, where blizzards howl and Alolan Vulpixes shimmer like living snowflakes, Lily stumbles upon a shivering runt, abandoned by its pack. Snowy, they name it later, but in that frozen instant, it's a desperate spark of blue fur against white drifts. The Vulpix curls against her chest, breath fogging her scarf, and for the first time, her fingers don't pull away. Trembling, she cradles it, whispering promises as powder snow dusts their forms. It's no grand battle, no Z-move blaze. It's intimate, raw, the camera lingering on her tears freezing on her cheeks. From there, the recovery simmers. A slow burn that defines Sun and Moon's patience. Snowy becomes her shadow, perched on that oversized bag, nipping at her hair until she laughs. A sound rare as a Tapu sighting. Trials test them. Lily commands from afar at first, voice quavering as Snowy unleashes powder snow blasts. But inch by inch, she steps closer. Family secrets erupt mid-season. Lucamine's mania unleashing Nihilego from ultraspace, dragging Lily into a nightmare of tentacles and lost memories. Gladion defects, allying with Ash to shatter the Foundation's illusions. Lily's hands, once clenched in fear, now stroke Clefairy's wings during school projects, or guide Snowy's evolutions into elegant forms. By the Ultra Adventures arc, she's not just touching Pokémon, she's saving them. Her arc mirroring Alola's theme of guardianship, reborn from pain. Yet that silent trauma lingers as the series' emotional spine, proving Sun and Moon's depth beyond beach volleyball hijinks. Lily's journey, from porcelain doll to defiant daughter, reframes the whole ensemble, her growth echoing the island's own trials. And as her walls crumble, Ash faces his first true test against the guardian spirit itself, pulling us into Chapter 5, the trial of Melamile, where one electric clash changes everything. As the shadows of Lily's family secrets lingered over the Pokémon School, like a gathering storm, Ash Ketchum found himself standing at the edge of something far more immediate, a crumbling stone archway on Melamile Island, where the salty breeze carried whispers of ancient guardians and the distant crash of waves against volcanic cliffs. This was no ordinary gym battle, it was the grand trial, Alola's rite of passage against Kahuna Hala, a man whose broad shoulders and easy smile hid the unyielding strength of the islands themselves. Hala wasn't just any leader. As the Kahuna of Melamili, he embodied the spirit of the Alolan people, rooted, resilient, with calloused hands from years of fishing nets and trial grounds. Ash had earned his shot here after surviving the first trial in Verdant Cavern, a sweltering maze overrun by a totem gumshoos and its swarm of Rattata and Raticate. Pikachu's Thunderbolt had cut through the frenzy, but it was the raw teamwork, the pulse of harmony between trainer and Pokémon that pushed them through. Now, under the Kahuna's watchful eye, Ash stepped into the open-air arena, the sun baking the dirt floor, Pikachu sparking at his side, ready to prove he belonged in this new world. But Alola demanded more than brute force. Enter the Z moves, those explosive bursts of power that redefined what a Pokémon battle could be. Unlike Mega Evolution from the Kalos days, where a stone or key triggered a temporary transformation, reshaping a Pokémon's body into something fiercer, more armoured, Z moves channeled pure unified energy through a Z crystal slotted into a Z ring. No evolution, no physical change, just a single, cataclysmic strike, born from a trainer striking a series of precise poses, syncing their spirit with their partners in a dance as old as the islands. Picture it, Ash twisting his wrist, knee bending just so, Pikachu mirroring the motion with electric fervour, the crystal glowing electric blue, before unleashing Gigavolt havoc, a raging storm of lightning that engulfs the field. Not as a spell from afar, but as an extension of their shared will. What set Z moves apart was the bond they required, deeper than any Mega Stone could forge. Mega Evolutions relied on latent potential unlocked by items. They amplified power through change. Z moves? They stripped away the crutches, demanding trust so profound that trainer and Pokémon moved as one heartbeat. Hala knew this intimately. His Hariyama loomed massive, fists like wrecking balls, but as Ash faltered in his first pose, stiff Kalos-trained aggression clashing with Alola's fluid rhythm, the Kahuna paused the fight. "It's not about forcing power, boy," Hala rumbled, his voice like gravel underfoot. "It's about harmony. Feel the island's pulse in your Pokémon." This clash forced Ash to confront his own reset. He'd stormed through Hoenn fires, Sinnoh summits, Unova skies with unyielding drive, but Alola whispered a different truth. Raw power alone crumbles like reef coral. He wasn't starting over. He was evolving, learning to temper his fire with the gentle sway of palm fronds, the synchronized flap of Wingull overhead. Pikachu sensed it too, cheeks crackling, not in rage but in rhythm. Their Z pose finally clicking like a key in an ancient lock. The arena erupted in thunderous light. Hariyama toppling, Z Crystal won. Not through domination, but through unity. Amid this intensity, Rowlet fluttered into Ash's life, like a feathered punchline, a wide-eyed grass owl snatched from a flock in the dead of night, only to immediately conk out asleep in Ash's backpack. This little comedian, with his perpetual sleepy grin and knack for dive-bombing foes headfirst into comedy gold, became the spark of levity in Ash's high-stakes push. Fans latched onto him instantly, those floppy wings slapping wildly during battles, his leafage attacks more pinball chaos than precision strike. Yet beneath the slapstick beat a powerhouse, Rowlet held his own against the gumshoes horde, bloom-dooming spectral flowers across the cavern walls, proving Alola's smallest could topple giants. Rowlet's refusal to evolve sealed his legend. Dartrix's forms beckoned, then Decidueye's regal arrow mastery, but he stayed blissfully unevolved, napping through evolutions like they were bad dreams. It mirrored Ash's journey. No rushed power-ups, just pure, unfiltered self. In schoolyard scrimmages, Rowlet would flop dramatically from Kiawe's Turtonator blasts, only to pop up, smirking, unbreakable. He tangled with Pikachu in jealous spats, feathers ruffled over backpack space, but their bond deepened in the trial's heat, Rowlet's carefree spirit reminding Ash that strength blooms from joy, not force. Through Harla's trial, the weight settled. Alola wasn't diluting Ash, it was refining him. The kahuna clasped his shoulder, post-battle, eyes gleaming with approval. You felt it now, the zing of true partnership. Ash nodded. Pikachu perched triumphant, Rowlet dozing on his head. This victory etched the first Z crystal into his ring, but more crucially, it cracked open his worldview. No more charging blindly. Harmony was the hidden current, pulling him toward greater trials. And as Ash pocketed his prize, basking in the glow of Melomele's sunset, a familiar trio lurked in the shadows, plotting their comeback with gadgets gleaming and egos inflated, setting the stage for Team Rocket's renaissance, where their antics explode from nuisance to something dangerously clever. With Ash clutching his freshly earned Sir Crystal after that grueling grand trial against Kahuna Harla, the spark of Z moves igniting a deeper bond between him and Pikachu. You might think the biggest threats in Alola were behind him. But no, the real disruption came from a trio who'd haunted the series for 2 decades. Jessie, James, and Meowth, reimagined in ways that made them sharper, funnier, and strangely more human than ever before. Picture them not as the bumbling bandits perpetually catapulted into the sky, but as infiltrators woven into the fabric of Alolan life. They set up base in a ramshackle Ether Foundation outpost on Melomele Island, disguising themselves as delivery workers, school volunteers, even kahuna aides, their schemes escalating from petty thefts to full-blown heists targeting the school's Pokémon. What elevated them wasn't just the volume of episodes, over 40 encounters across the series, but the layers peeled back on their dynamic. Jessie's diva energy turned theatrical, belting out battle cries with the flair of a pop idol mid-concert. James, ever the flamboyant softie, geeked out over rare Inkay and Mariani, his affections bordering on paternal. And Meowth, that talking feline schemer, finally shed some of his perpetual bitterness, trading street-tough quips for genuine camaraderie, his Brooklyn accent laced with reluctant warmth. This wasn't episodic filler. It was a renaissance because Sun and Moon let them breathe. Away from the mainland's rigid villain cycle, Alola's laid-back vibe cracked their armor. They'd fail spectacularly, Pikachu's thunderbolts sending their mechs crumpling like tin cans, yet bounce back with escalating absurdity, from giant rice ball launchers to Beware-powered rescues. Beware, that hulking pink bear Pokémon oblivious to everything but maternal instinct, scooped them up like errant cubs after every defeat, stuffing them into her den for forced naps and berry feasts. No more blasting off again stars streaking across the horizon. Instead, a recurring loop of domestic absurdity, her stuffing paw whisking them away mid-monologue, leaving Ash and the gang baffled in the dust. That den became their unintended home. A cave cluttered with plush toys and bubbling hot springs, where the trio lounged in yukatas, bickering over dinner like a dysfunctional family on vacation. James pruning Beware's fur, Jessie styling her bows, Meowth translating her grunts. It humanized them, turning perpetual losers into endearing weirdos. You felt the shift. They weren't just foils anymore. They were Alola's chaotic uncles, crashing family barbecues with Malasada bombs and vanishing into the jungle, only to reappear fresher, plotting anew. This rhythm made their failures hit different. Not frustrating repeats, but punchlines in a larger sitcom. Their loyalty to each other shining through the wreckage. But lurking beneath the laughs was Mimikyu, the ragdoll ghost they unearthed early on. A Pikachu obsessive with a vendetta that chilled the tropical air. Clad in a tattered Pikachu costume, fraying at the edges, its true form a nightmarish tangle of shadows and jagged teeth, Mimikyu didn't just battle Pikachu, it stalked him. Debuting in a midnight raid on the Pokémon school, its shadow claw slicing through the dark like a scythe, eyes glowing with eldritch hunger from beneath the cloth. This wasn't cartoon rivalry. Mimikyu craved Pikachu's identity, mimicking moves with eerie precision, thunderbolt twisting into cursed lightning, driven by a lore-deep tragedy. Abandoned, unloved, it sought to steal Pikachu's shine, literally peeling back its disguise in fits of rage to reveal a form that warped reality, draining life with play rough that felt like a curse. Pikachu's clashes with it became primal, fur standing on end against that hollow gaze. Z moves clashing in explosions of electric fury and shadowy spite. Jessie commanded it like a dark mirror to Ash's bond. Mimikyu's loyalty born from shared rejection, its attacks laced with a genuine grudge that made victories Pyrrhic. One episode saw it infiltrate the school disguised as a classmate's toy, nearly claiming Pikachu's spot before a full reveal sent everyone reeling. This eldritch edge, Mimikyu's anime adaptation, leaning into game lore of loneliness-fueled violence, positioned it as Pikachu's true nemesis, a rival whose defeats only fueled its obsession, costume stitching tighter each time. Through it all, the trio's Alolan exile fostered something rare: family, shared beware-induced blackouts forged inside jokes. Mimikyu's tantrums prompted group hugs amid the chaos. They'd scheme against Ash during trials, only to get sidelined by Tapu Koko's sparks or their own infighting, yet persist with a resilience that echoed the region's spirit of perseverance. Fans who'd groaned at their XY cameos found themselves rooting in secret, laughing at James's Mariani ink baths or Meowth's failed tech hacks. It was their strongest run since the black and white era, arguably ever. Complex, consistent, carved into Alola's sunny chaos. Yet as their antics peaked, rifts began tearing through the sky, otherworldly portals spilling threats no mecha could match. What horrors awaited beyond those swirling voids? Find out next in Chapter 7, Into the Ultra Wormhole. While Pikachu's electric clashes with Mimikyu's haunted disguise echo through the palm-fringed shores of Alola, something far more ominous stirs beneath the surface of those endless blue waves. Cracks in reality itself begin to spiderweb across the sky, swirling portals of violet and crimson that spit out otherworldly invaders, creatures that defy the logic of Pokeballs and trials alike. This is where Sun and Moon sheds its schoolyard skin, hurtling headlong into the Ultra Adventures arc, a pivot that transforms breezy beach romps into a cosmic thriller laced with heartbreak. Lusamine, the ethereal president of the Ether Foundation, stands at the eye of this storm. Picture her gliding through sterile white corridors, her golden hair cascading like a veil over eyes that burn with unquenchable hunger. She's no mere philanthropist cradling orphaned Pokémon. She's a woman unraveling, thread by golden thread. Her husband Moon vanished years ago, chasing whispers of interdimensional beasts, swallowed by the very voids he sought to tame. That loss festers in her, twisting grief into mania. Ultra beasts aren't just anomalies to her. They're salvation, keys to reunion, vessels for a love lost to the ether. She pores over grainy footage of Nihilego's jellyfish tendrils or Kartana's blade-sharp origami form, murmuring their code names like prayers: Yubi Beauty, Yubi Slicer. Her foundation's paradise facade hides labs pulsing with ethereal glows, where she experiments not just to protect, but to possess. It's Lusamine's daughter, Lily, who first bridges this fractured world to Ash's classroom chaos. That pristine white dress she clings to like armor, it's stained now, clutched around a tiny, nebula-swirled puffball. She finds adrift in the waves. Cosmog, the cosmic infant, known as Nebby. This legendary entity, harbinger of wormholes, latches onto Lily with starry-eyed innocence, but her mother's shadow looms. Lily can't touch Pokémon, remember? Yet Nebby defies that curse, tumbling into her arms, forcing her to confront the family's buried rot. Ash, ever the reckless heart of the group, steps in without hesitation. He scoops up the squishy wanderer, dubbing it Nebby for its incessant nebby cries, and suddenly he's surrogate dad to a being that could unmake the stars. Nebby's arrival ripples outward like a stone in still waters. At first, it's comedic gold, Nebby phasing through walls at Pokémon school, photobombing Sophocles' gadgets, or nuzzling Roulette's feathers during nap time. Ash corrals it with Pikachu's patient zaps and Rockruff's playful pounces, teaching it boundaries amid trial prep on Akala Island. But innocence cracks fast. Nebby grows, molting into Cosmom's armoured cocoon, draining life from the land as it hungers for evolution. Ash hauls that heavy shell across volcanic trails and misty forests, whispering encouragement through gritted teeth, his bond forging something paternal, fierce. It's Ash at his rawest, not conquering legends, but nurturing one, bottle-feeding a black hole in diapers. Then the wormholes tear wide, no longer distant anomalies, they bloom like festering wounds over Melemele, disgorging ultra beasts that rampage with alien fury. Buzzwole flexes crimson muscles that bulge like overripe fruit. Pheromosa darts with ballerina lethality, its exoskeleton gleaming under Alola's sun. The class mobilizes, Kiawe's Turtonator belching dragonfire, Lana's Primarina weaving hydro-illusions. But these aren't trial totems. They're invaders from ultra-space, realms where gravity warps and colours bleed into impossible spectra. Ash dives through the first rift on Tapu Koko's crackling back, Pikachu sparking against the void's chill, and the screen erupts into psychedelic fever dream. Forget sandy beaches and swaying palms. Ultra space assaults the senses like a Salvador Dali canvas on acid. Megastructures twist in impossible geometries, platforms floating in nebulae that pulse with bioluminescent veins. The air hums with subsonic thrums, skies fracturing into prismatic shards where shadows cast rainbows. Nihiligo drifts like a venomous lantern, its tentacles trailing neurotoxins that puppet human minds. Lucamine's first victim, her obsession blooming into full possession as she crosses over, eyes glazing with UB Beauty's poison. Ash pursues, Pikachu's cheeks crackling against the surreal onslaught, Roulet slicing through crystalline vines. This is sun, and Moon's visual zenith, cell-shaded tropics melting into CG fever, Z-moves exploding in kaleidoscopic fury against beasts that ooze existential dread. Lucamine's descent peaks in that fractured dimension, her screams echoing as she clutches a phantom husband amid the chaos. Mon's fate unravels in flashbacks, devoured not by beasts but by the wormhole's merciless pull, his Zoroark left howling in Aether's vaults. Lily's arc ignites here too, shattering her touch phobia to embrace Snowy, racing through rifts to save her mother. Ash's surrogate role with Nebby culminates as it bursts into Solgaleo, the sun-devouring lion, rocketing them home in a blaze of mane and light. The arc redefines stakes. School antics were prologue. This is apocalypse averted by 11-year-old grit. Yet amid these cosmic tears, darker undercurrents brew on Alola's streets, grunts in skull hoodies scheming not from other worlds, but from the island's forgotten fringes. Tune in next for Chapter 8, The Tragedy of Team Skull, where we uncover Guzma's shattered dreams and why his rebellion cuts deeper than any wormhole rift. Before we dive deeper into this incredible journey, I'm curious, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop a comment below and let our global community know. And if you're finding this as mind-blowing as I am, hit that like button to help more people discover this story. As the dust settled from Lucamine's cataclysmic plunge into ultraspace, Alola didn't catch its breath for long. Shadowing the edges of those grand trials and wormhole crises loomed a ragtag crew in black and white tracksuits, revving stolen golf carts through the palm-lined roads. Team Skull wasn't just comic relief, crashing Ash's school days. They were Alola's raw nerve, exposed and throbbing. Guzma, their towering boss with the wild grin and Golisopod claws snapping at his sides, didn't start as the king of chaos. Picture him years back, a lanky kid under the relentless Hawaiian sun, standing shoulder to shoulder with a young Professor Kukui on Melemele's dusty paths. Kukui, fresh from his own adventures, saw potential in the boy. Raw power, a fire that could shake islands. He took Guzma under his wing, pushing him toward the island challenge. Those ancient rites where trainers face totems and kahunas to claim Z crystals and prove their bond with Pokémon. But the pressure crushed him. Each trial felt like a noose tightening. Failures piling up like storm debris on Ula Ula's shores. Guzma couldn't sync with the traditions, couldn't bend to the kahuna's expectations. He lashed out, smashing his Z-power ring in a fit of rage, vowing to tear down the very dreams Kukui held dear. That betrayal, it wasn't pettiness, it was a scream from someone who'd been built up, only to shatter. Team Skull formed in the wreckage of that fall. These weren't your standard evil organization grunts, chanting world domination slogans in windowless lairs. No, they rolled up to Pokémon school gates in packs, spray painting threats and battling classmates with Rattata swarms and Salandit sneers. But peel back the baggy pants and beanies and you find kids Alola chewed up and spat out. The island challenge demands harmony. Dance with fire like Kiawe, cook with nature like Mallow, embrace the wild flow. But for the outcasts, those who stuttered through trials, whose Pokémon flinched at Z-moves, or who just didn't fit the sunny, tradition-bound mould, rejection stung like a beware hug gone wrong. Guzma gave them a uniform, a beat to march to, their street gang vibe, a deliberate shield, all baggy clothes swallowing skinny frames, chains clinking like defiant laughter. It masked the hurt, turned vulnerability into volume. They weren't conquering Alola. They were claiming a corner where no kahuna could judge them. Watch those early skirmishes, and the humanity seeps through the bravado. A skull grunt corners Sophocles on Akala's beaches, only to fumble when his own Togedemaru refuses a shady command, eyes pleading for something real. Another, mid-battle with Lana, whispers to her Poplio about dreaming of Poplio's grace before her own Pokémon bubbles burst in defeat. These aren't mindless henchman fodder for Ash's 10,000-volt punchlines. The anime lingers on their downtime, huddled in Potown's crumbling mansion, trading malasadas and battle scars, laughing over botched heists while Golbat wings rustle overhead. Guzma paces among them like a big brother gone feral, barking orders that sound tough but carry the weight of "I won't let you fail like I did." One episode strips it bare. A grunt's Mariani poisons itself in overzealous loyalty, and the whole crew freezes, not with villainous shrugs, but genuine panic, rushing it to ether paradise under cover of night. They're a family of strays bound by shared exile from Alola's postcard paradise, even in the Ultra Adventures chaos, when Ultra Beasts tear rifts and Lucamine's madness peaks. Team Skull doesn't pivot to grand schemes. They harass trial sites, sure, but it's petty rebellion, stealing Z crystals not for power, but to flip off the system that sidelined them. Guzma's showdowns with Ash pulse with that buried pain. His Berserker hammers away, but his taunts crack. You think you're special, schoolboy? Kukui's golden boy? Echoing his own ghosts. The series doesn't redeem them with a tidy heel turn. Instead, it humanizes through quiet beats. Grunts cheering each other post-loss. Guzma staring at the horizon, where his old mentor surfs waves, wondering what if. They're Alola's underbelly. The flip side of guardianship tales, proof that not every Pokémon bond blooms under blue skies. By the time the Alola League ignites, that tragedy boils over. Guzma crashes the finals, not as mindless muscle, but a storm of unresolved fury. His team a mirror of his fractured path. Defeat doesn't erase the scars. It just quiets the roar, leaving you to ponder those tracksuit shadows slipping back to Potown. Team Skull endures as Alola's most poignant what could have beens, misunderstood not despite their chaos, but because of it. And as those echoes fade, we'll turn to Chapter 9, the evolution of Rockruff. where one loyal pup's midnight howl reshapes Ash's team in ways that hit harder than any Z move. While Guzma turned his back on Kukoi's lessons, haunted by his own failures in the Island Challenge, another student under the professor's watchful eye was wrestling with demons far more primal. Ash's Rockruff didn't just arrive in Alola as a scrappy pup ready for battles. It carried a fire inside that threatened to consume it, a raw aggression that set it apart from the rest of Ash's team. From the moment Ash found it howling alone on the rugged trails of Akala Island, this Rockruff was different. Its eyes burned with an untamed fury, lashing out not just at foes, but at its own trainer during spars, its bites drawing real blood more than once. Kukoi noticed it immediately, pulling Ash aside after a particularly brutal training session where Rockruff nearly turned on Pikachu. This wasn't mere spunk, it was a creature at war with itself, instincts clashing against the bonds of friendship that defined Alola's Pokémon way. You could feel the tension in every episode leading up to it. Those sun-drenched afternoons on Melamali where Rockruff would pace restlessly, refusing food, snapping at shadows. Ash poured everything into taming that wild heart. Long hikes through misty forests, midnight runs along crashing waves, even sharing his own Z-ring spark to sync their rhythms. But evolution loomed like a storm on the horizon. Rockruff craved it, howling at the moon each night, as if begging the stars for release, yet every attempt failed spectacularly. Midday Lycanroc? Too rigid, too controlled. Midnight? A frenzy of shadows it couldn't harness. Ash's patience wore thin, mirroring his own impulsive streak, but Kukoi's guidance kept them grounded. Discipline tempers the beast, but only trust unleashes its true form. It was Ash learning to balance his gut-driven charges with calculated strategy, much like the Z moves that demanded perfect harmony. Then came the pinnacle, that fateful clash on the outskirts of Hihia City, where Rockruff's aggression boiled over against Gladian's stoic Lycanroc. Gladian, ever the shadowed rival with his sleek midday form, poised, precise, a blade honed by loss and ether secrets, saw Rockruff as a mirror of unchecked chaos. Their battle wasn't just fur and fangs, it was a prelude to destiny. Rockruff took brutal hits, its body trembling not from pain, but from the surge within. As the sun dipped toward the ocean, painting the sky in fiery oranges and deepening purples, something extraordinary happened. A brilliant green flash erupted from the horizon. The legendary green flash, that rare optical phenomenon where the last ray of sunlight refracts through the atmosphere, visible only at twilight in places like Alola's vast seas. In Pokémon lore, it's whispered as a sign from the Guardians themselves, a bridge between day and night, light and dark. Rockruff seized it, bathed in that ethereal glow, its form shattered and reformed, stones cascading like volcanic embers. Dusk Lycanroc emerged, not the midday sentinel or midnight berserker, but a majestic fusion, fur tipped in twilight crimson, eyes glowing with balanced ferocity. This wasn't just an evolution, it was the anime's debut of the Dusk form, a variant straight from the game's hidden mechanics, requiring not levels or stones, but precise timing at dusk after bonding through trials. In Sun and Moon's lore, Dusk Lycanroc embodies equilibrium, its Accelerock striking like lightning, counter like a vengeful tide. For Ash, it symbolized his arc, the wild boy from Pallet Town, evolving into Alola's champion, instincts sharpened by school, trials, and unbreakable ties. Rockruff's struggle had forged not a weapon, but a partner who could stand toe-to-toe with legends. That rivalry with Gladian's Lycanroc only intensified the drama. Gladian's was pure midday discipline, a product of his fractured family, an anti-Skullfire, elegant, unyielding, every move a calculated pierce. Ash's Dusk form, a whirlwind of adaptive power, Accelerock blurring past defences, its howls echoing the green flash's promise. Their skirmishes built like thunderheads, each clash hinting at the Alola League Showdown, where forms would collide in full glory. Fans felt it in their bones. This wasn't filler evolution, it was narrative poetry. Rockruff's rage transmuted into Ash's maturity, proving Sun and Moon's depth in every glowing fang. Yet even as Dusk Lycanroc prowled the sands victorious, deeper burdens simmered among Ash's classmates. Up next, Chapter 10. Mallow's Hidden Burden. Uncover the forest's secret that nearly broke Alola's brightest chef, and why it hits harder than any trial. As Rockruff finally embraced that elusive green flash, transforming under the dying light into the fierce yet balanced dusk-form Lycanroc, the Pokémon school class turned their eyes toward deeper shadows in their own lives. You could feel it in the humid Alolan air, thick with unspoken regrets, where even the brightest smiles hid storms brewing just beneath. Mallow, the girl with the apron always dusted in flour and spices, carried one such storm silently through every episode. Her Tsarina kicked high with perfect poise during trials. Her cooking fueled the gang's endless adventures. But behind that infectious laugh lurked a wound that the series refused to gloss over. It all unravelled in the episode known as Memories in the Mist, a quiet masterpiece tucked into the Ultra Adventures arc, where the tropical haze of Pony Island's ruins of hope swallowed the group whole. Picture the fog rolling in like a living shroud, courtesy of Tapu Fini, the enigmatic water guardian whose misty veil doesn't just obscure vision, it dredges up the past. Ash and the crew stumble into this phenomenon during a routine island challenge side trip, but for Mallow, it's no accident. The mist clings to her skin, heavy with salt and sorrow, whispering memories she thought she'd buried under layers of cheerful banter and sizzling stir-fries. And then, there she is, her mother, materializing from the vapors, vibrant as the day she left, apron tied just like Mallow's, voice warm with the lilt of old arguments, turned tender. This wasn't some filler beach day. Sun and Moon dared to reveal that Mallow's mum had passed away years before, struck down suddenly, leaving her daughter with the sharp sting of unfinished words. Their last exchange, a petty spat over naming Mallow's Boundsweet, Tsarina's pre-evolution, a name her mother dismissed as silly right before illness claimed her. Mallow, barely a teen, replayed that moment endlessly. The slammed door, the unspoken apologies, the guilt that twisted like a vine around her heart. She poured it into her cooking, into perfecting recipes her mum adored, but never voiced the regret aloud. Not to her dad, running the restaurant alone. Not to her Pokémon. Certainly not to her friends, who saw only the girl whipping up malasadas that could mend any mood. Yet here, in Tapu Fini's fog, the series peels back that cheerful facade with surgical precision. Mallow's voice cracks as she confesses to the spectral vision, tears cutting tracks through the mist on her cheeks. "I should have said I was sorry, she chokes out, the words hanging in the air like steam from a forgotten pot. Her mother smiles, not with judgment, but understanding, acknowledging the chaos of life, the abruptness of loss, the human mess of loving someone imperfectly. They cook together in the haze, side by side, sharing one last meal that tastes of forgiveness. Tsarina watches, finds relaxed for once, as Mallow finally whispers goodbye, releasing the burden that's weighted her steps across Akala Island. What makes this moment sing is how Sun and Moon weaves unfinished business into the fabric of its world. Tapu Fini's mist isn't magic for magic's sake. It's a guardian's gift, a liminal space where the veil between worlds thins, allowing the living to confront what death steals too soon. No resurrection, no cheap reversals like you'd see in lighter fare, just a poignant echo, a chance to say what pride or time denied. It's echoed in other arcs, Stoutland's passing, urging Litten toward Incineroar, Lily's fractured family pulling her from fear, but Mallow's story hits hardest because it's so achingly ordinary. No ultra beasts, no league battles, just a daughter grappling with, "I love you," left unsaid. That contrast defines her. The exterior bubbling with optimism, dishing out grins and gourmet treats to mask the quiet erosion inside. Every time she rallies the class with a home-cooked feast, you now hear the echo of her mother's recipes, the guilt fueling her drive to nurture. Sun and Moon doesn't let her snap back to normalcy with a thumbs up. The fog lingers in her eyes, a subtle shift that deepens her bonds. Kiawe notices, Lana listens without pushing. It's friendship as therapy, raw and real. This episode cements Pokémon the series, Sun and Moon, as the most human chapter in the anime's sprawling history. While XY dazzled with spectacle and Origins with grit, Alola stares unflinchingly at mortality, letting kids like Mallow and viewers like you process grief amid the Pokémon. No sermons, just mist-shrouded catharsis that validates the pain without exploiting it. Critics who dismissed the series as too silly missed this. Its whimsy was the Trojan horse for profound empathy, turning beach romps into vessels for the toughest lessons. And as Mallow steps out of the fog lighter, her hidden burden lifted, the story pulls us toward another mask waiting to crack, one tied to dreams of glory and a royal secret that Kukui guards close. Stick around for Chapter 11, The Masked Royal and the Dream, where the lines between teacher, champion and showman blur in ways that'll redefine everything you thought you knew about Alola's heart. As the fog of Tapu Fini lifts from Mallow's heart, carrying away the weight of unspoken goodbyes, Alola reveals another layer of its guarded secrets, one hidden not in misty ruins, but under the glare of arena spotlights and the roar of a crowd hungry for chaos. Professor Kukui, the laid-back teacher who's been guiding Ash through Z-moves and island trials, harbours a double life that pulses at the very core of Alola's competitive soul. You see him every day in board shorts and flip-flops, tossing a football with Pikachu or scribbling lesson plans at the Pokémon school. But when the sun dips low over Melamili Island and the Battle Royal Dome lights up, Kukui transforms. Strap on that golden mask, flex those championship muscles, and he becomes the Masked Royal, a larger-than-life battler whose Incineroar dominates the free-for-all frenzy of Alola's signature spectacle. It's no mere side gig. This secret identity fuels his grandest dream, a unified Pokémon League for the islands, where kahunas from Melemele to Pony clash not in isolation, but in a single, explosive tournament that binds Alola together. Think about the Battle Royal itself. 4 trainers, 16 Pokémon, no holds barred, pure pandemonium where alliances shatter in seconds, and the last one standing claims the crown. It's Alola distilled, that relentless, all-out spirit born from the island's turquoise waves, crashing against volcanic cliffs. From kahunas who demand you pour every ounce of your aloha into the fight. No sterile gym badges here, no linear badges to collect. The Battle Royal mirrors the archipelago's wild heart, disjointed islands united by shared fury, where a Poplio might splash through flames or a Turtonator tanks a Z-move hailstorm. Kukui, as the Masked Royal, doesn't just participate, he evangelizes it on live TV, whipping crowds into a frenzy that echoes across Akala's beaches and Ula Ula's shadowed trails. And at the center of it all, slinks Incineroar, Kukui's fire-dark behemoth, a wrestler with a grin that spells trouble. His rivalry with Ash's Torracat isn't some flash-in-the-pan clash. It simmers slow, like lava bubbling under black sand. Remember Litten, that scrappy alley cat Ash nursed back from the brink, evolving into Torracat after battles that tested his grit against Stoutland's final lessons. Kukui's Incineroar watches from the sidelines at first, those knowing glances during schoolyard spars, the way Torracat's flames flare brighter every time Incineroar flexes in the dome. They mirror their trainers, Ash's raw, unpolished hunger against Kukui's seasoned flair. It builds across episodes from casual throwdowns where Torracat dodges Darkest Lariat to full-throated roars in the league qualifiers. Torracat's malicious moonsault clashes with Incineroar's revenge, sparks flying like fireworks over Howali City. But it's deeper than movesets. These two embody Alola's fire lineage, fierce independence wrapped in loyalty, pushing each other toward evolution, not just in form, but in spirit. By the time Torracat completes his arc into Incineroar, that rivalry has forged them into equals, ready for the finals where dreams collide. What elevates Kukui beyond a mentor? After 20 seasons of Ash chasing horizons without a steady hand at home, his dad a ghost story from Pallet Town, Kukui fills that void like no one else. He's the one who crafts Ash's Z-Ring workouts under Melamila's endless blue, who cheers through every trial flop, who sees the champion in a boy still tripping over Rolet's sleepy dives. But it's in quiet moments, the post-battle ha-has, the shared bentos at sunset, that you feel it. Kukui's not pushing Ash toward badges. He's building a legacy, fathering a league where his students' fire can burn eternal. His vision? Alola splintered no more. 4 islands, 4 kahunas, but 1 throne. He pours sweat into blueprints during late nights, rallying Samson Oak and Hala while dodging his masked royal crowds. Guzma tries to smash it all, his own failures fueling the wrecking ball, but Kukui's dream endures, culminating in that electric league where Ash's Pikachu surges with the ultimate Z move, toppling even the masked royal himself. It's poetic. The teacher yields to the student, Incineroar bowing to its rival's evolution, Alola crowned in unity. Yet as the confetti settles and cheers fade, shadows stir from ultra space, pulling Ash and his classmates into a guardian role that tests every bond Kukui helped forge. Up next in Chapter 12, the Ultra Guardians, you'll see how these school kids become Alola's frontline against beasts beyond the wormholes. Trust me, the stakes skyrocket in ways you won't see coming. Kukui's vision for an Alola League pulsed with that same unbreakable spirit of protection. But the threats facing the islands were growing wilder, spilling in from rifts in the sky themselves. Ultra wormholes, those swirling portals of otherworldly light, had been cracking open more frequently since Lucamine's Ether Foundation began probing ultra space. And when a massive buzzwole nearly leveled a beach on Melamele Island, flexing its hulking muscles like a bodybuilder from another dimension, it became clear. Alola needed more than just trial goers and kahunas. It needed a team. Enter the Ultra Guardians. Ash and his classmates, Lana, Lily, Mallow, Sophocles and Kiawe, were handpicked for this elite squad. Their school uniforms swapped for sleek, shimmering sparkle outfits that gleamed under the tropical sun. Picture it. Bright colours tailored to each trainer, complete with communicators on their wrists and those iconic Sentai poses they struck before every mission. Arms crossed, feet planted wide, voices booming in unison. Ultra Guardians launch! It was pure Power Rangers homage, infused with Alola's vibrant flair, turning a bunch of kids into a coordinated strike force, ready to dive headfirst into danger. Lucamine herself suited them up at Ether Paradise, her eyes alight with a mix of redemption and resolve after her own brush with ultra space madness. These weren't just costumes, they were high-tech gear linked to Rotom decks, tracking wormholes and scanning anomalies across the islands. The team's mission: intercept ultra beasts before they could rampage. Kartana slicing through Akala's jungles like living origami, Celesteela rocketing up from Ula Ula's craters in pillars of steam. These invaders weren't evil, just lost, displaced from their home dimension, wreaking havoc on Alola's delicate ecosystems. What made this arc sing was the balance it struck. Every episode felt like a self-contained crisis. Spot the wormhole, suit up. Capture the beast with a specialized Ultra Ball, then release it back through the rift. No permanent collections, no trophies, just guardianship. Nihiligo's tentacles, drifting like ghostly jellyfish, poisoning the waters until Lana's Primarina sang it into submission. Pheromosa darting across Pony's cliffs, too fast for anyone, until Sophocles' Vikavolt zapped a trap. It honoured the theme of environmental stewardship woven through Sun and Moon from the start. Alola's Tapu protectors had been doing this for eons, nudging Pokémon and people alike toward harmony. Now these kids were their human extension, learning that true strength meant knowing when to let go. But amid the team antics, one story cut deeper: Poipol's arrival. This tiny purple poison pin Pokémon tumbled out of a wormhole right into Ash's path during a routine patrol, its needle-like proboscis dripping with a toxic glow that could fell a Tauros in seconds. At first it was chaos, Poipol zipping around Pikachu, mimicking every move with gleeful chirps, turning battles into slapstick comedy. Ash saw past the danger though. He bottle-fed it berries when it starved, laughed off the pranks when it painted his face with poison goo, and trained it through tantrums that shook the school dorms. That bond grew roots. Poipol evolved into Naganadel under Ash's care, its form elongating into a majestic dragonfly with wings like stained glass, pulsing with ultra-space energy. Yet it carried a heavier burden, a homesick kingpin for its kind, the Naganadel leading a fractured hive trapped on an alien world. Ash's raw empathy shone here. The boy who chased legendaries across regions now nurturing this fragile outsider. When the time came, Poipol's departure wasn't a goodbye, it was a coronation. Ash led the Ultra Guardians on a wormhole chase to the hive's desolate planet, battling Nihiligo swarms under crimson skies, until Poipol unified its people and flew off as their ruler. Tears streamed down Ash's face that day, but his smile held pride, proof of how Sun and Moon let him grow beyond endless battling. This era shattered Alola's island-bound borders. No longer confined to Melamele beaches or Akala ranches, the Ultra Guardians warped into pocket dimensions, crystalline labyrinths where Zucatry snaked through veins of pure electricity or foggy voids echoing with Stakataka's rumbling steps. Lucamine's portals flung them to worlds of endless night or floating continents, revealing Ultra Space as a fractured multiverse teeming with beasts that mirrored Pokémon lore's deepest mysteries. It expanded the canvas, tying backstories like Lily's family trauma, her mother once lost to a Nihiligo's grasp, to grander stakes. Gladion joined missions too, his Silvally clashing with Ultra Beasts in bursts of multicoloured RKS energy, bridging rivalries into reluctant teamwork. Team Rocket couldn't resist crashing the party, their mechs mimicking sparkle suits in ridiculous parodies, only to get blasted back by coordinated Z moves. Guzma lurked on the edges, his Golisopods smashing grunts who tangled with wormholes, hinting at his own tangled path to redemption. Through it all, the Sentai flare kept things electric. Kiawe's fiery poses igniting the air, Mallow's Tsarina kicking up sandstorms, Sophocles geeking out over tech readouts. Yet beneath the spectacle lay maturity, discussions on invasive species disrupting habitats, the ethics of interdimensional intervention, whispers of loss echoing in every farewell. As wormholes sealed and beasts returned home, Kukue watched from the sidelines, his masked royal mask tucked away, knowing this task force had forged his students into something unbreakable. The islands breathed easier, but bigger horizons loomed, the spark of competition that would ignite Alola's first league. And that's where we'll pick up next, in Chapter 13, the road to the Alola League, where dreams of glory collide with the ultimate test of everything they've protected. As the Ultra Guardians wrapped up their final patrols, sealing the last flickering Ultra wormholes under Alola's endless blue skies, a new energy began to ripple through the islands. Professor Kukui, ever the visionary, had been nurturing a dream bigger than any trial or beast hunt. He stood before the Pokémon school assembly one sun-drenched morning, his voice booming with that infectious passion, announcing the birth of something unprecedented, the very first Alola League. Picture the scene on Melemele Island's grand stadium field, palm fronds swaying in the trade winds, the scent of sea salt mixing with fresh-cut grass. Kukui's words hung in the air like a Zed move charging up. No gyms, no badges, no rigid path, just pure unfiltered Pokémon battles to crown Alola's first champion. And to cap it off, he dropped another bombshell. Familiar faces from Ash's past were sailing back into the region. Misty, the Cerulean City gym leader with her unyielding spirit and water-type mastery, and Brock, the rock-solid breeder from Pewter City, both returning to compete and coach. Their arrival wasn't just nostalgia, it was a bridge between Kanto's old ways and Alola's vibrant now, reminding everyone that battles transcend regions. What made this league genius from the start was its radical rule: no entry requirements. Anyone who wanted in could sign up. No badges, no prerequisites, no barriers. In a region built on open trials and communal challenges, this wasn't laziness, it was brilliant storytelling. Suddenly every character we'd grown to love or loved to clash with had a shot at glory. Ash's classmates, Lana with her Poplio's graceful dives, Mallow commanding Tsarina's kicks, Sophocles tinkering with Togedemaru's sparks, Kiawe's fiery Turtonator roars, even Lily's elegant Snowy, all threw their hats in. Rivals like Gladion, his Zorok cloaked in shadows, and Hapu, the stoic Pony Kahuna, with her massive Golurk, stepped up too. Kukui himself entered as the masked royal, his Tapu Koko-inspired flair ready to dazzle. And lurking in the brackets, Guzma and his Team Skull grunts, turning their chaotic energy into legitimate contenders. This openness pulled everyone into the spotlight, weaving a tapestry of personal stakes that no traditional league could match. Think about it. In past tournaments, Ash battled strangers or stepping stone foes. Here every matchup echoed backstories we'd lived through. Lana facing off against Misty, a water specialist's dream clash. Waves crashing in tribute to both their journeys. Brock mentoring Sophocles mid-bracket, sharing breeding wisdom under the stars. It transformed the league from a checklist into a reunion. Every Z-ring gleam loaded with history. But not everyone cheered. Tension brewed like a storm over Alola's peaks. Traditionalists, veterans from Kanto, Johto, even Kukui's old rivals, grumbled that without entry barriers, it wasn't a real league. They wanted the grind, badges earned through sweat, eliminations weeding out the weak. Why hand glory to school kids or skull punks? It cheapened the title of champion, they argued, turning sacred competition into a beach party. Alolans pushed back hard, their voices rising like Tapu Lele's psychic hum. This was their celebration of battle, a reflection of the island's spirit. Open challenges, trials for all, where strength came from heart, not hierarchy. Kukui mediated it all. His league, a defiant statement. Alola battles to unite, not divide. The bracket draw only amplified the drama. Held in a roaring coliseum on Akala Island, with volcanic smoke curling from distant Mauna and the crowd's cheers shaking the earth, the lots tumbled out like destiny's dice. No random seeding. The pairings felt fated. Ash drew early bouts against his own classmates, forcing him to strategize against friends who'd shared trials and tears. Kiawe's Turtonator versus Litten's evolving fire, a blaze of brotherhood tested to its limits. Gladion lurking in Ash's path, their Zoroark Pikachu rivalry simmering since the Ultra Beasts. Hapu, the earth-shaking Kahuna, guarding the semi-finals like Pony's ancient cliffs. Every round pulsed with intimacy. Roulette's sleepy dodges against Mallow's Tsarina, feathers scattering like confetti in the humid night air. Lycanrock's dusk form howling under the moon, its green flash a callback to that fateful evolution. Incineroar, forged in Stoutland's final lessons, roaring with a vengeance that shook the stands. Pikachu's Gigavolt havoc lit up the finals horizon, but not before Guzma's brutal Buzzwole swings threatened to shatter dreams. These weren't filler fights, they were payoffs. Relationships evolved mid-battle, Lily's commands growing bolder, Sophocles' inventions turning the tide. The no-entry rule ensured no one was sidelined. Even Team Skull Grunts got their moments of redemption, their beats syncing to Alola's rhythmic pulse. As the league unfolded across the islands, prelims on Melemele's beaches, quarters amid Pony's misty plains, the air thickened with possibility. Crowds from every corner gathered, malasadas in hand, chanting under starlit skies. Traditionalist protests faded against the sheer joy of it all, proving Alola right. Battles heal, they connect. Ash pushed forward, his team a mosaic of growth, but shadows loomed in the later brackets, where Guzma's grudge against Kukui boiled over. And that grudge explodes in our next chapter, Guzma's final stand, where one man's shattered dreams nearly topple the entire league. You won't believe how it all unravels. I hope you're as amazed by this as I am. If you want to stay updated on more content like this, make sure to subscribe and join our community of curious minds. Trust me, what's coming next will challenge everything you thought you knew. With the Alola League's doors flung wide open, no badges, no prerequisites, just pure heart and grit pulling in trainers from every corner of the islands, including long-lost faces like Misty and Brock. The stadium on Manalo was electric, a cauldron of cheers under those endless blue skies. But lurking in the shadows of that grand debut was Guzma, the self-proclaimed king of Team Skull. Not to compete for a crown, but to shatter the whole damn thing. Guzma had always been the storm cloud over Alola's sunny disposition. Rejected by the kahunas, scorned by the trials he couldn't conquer, he built Team Skull as his middle finger to the region's harmonious ways. Grunts in bone-white hoodies terrorizing beaches, shaking down small-time trainers, all under his banner of bad to the bone. Yet here he was, slipping into the league like a gullbat in the night, his entry unchallenged by those open rules. He didn't announce his arrival with fireworks. No, Guzma waged war from the inside, a psychological siege designed to rot the tournament at its core. Picture the tension building as battles raged on the field. Guzma's grunts flooded the stands, their chants a discordant rumble against the crowd's roar. Skull, 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 disrupting matches, intimidating spectators, turning what should have been a celebration of a lowland spirit into a battlefield of doubt. Trainers whispered about sabotage, officials scrambled as power flickered in the lights, courtesy of some accidental wiring from Sophocles' rivals. Guzma revelled in it, strutting through the corridors with that cocky grin, his Golisopod at his side like an armoured enforcer. He trash-talked the league itself, calling it a farce, a kahuna puppet show dressed up as competition. This ain't strength, he'd bellow into any microphone he could hijack. It's a kiddie pool for cowards hiding behind Z-rings. His words wormed into minds, planting seeds of fear. Would the league even survive the preliminaries? Ash felt it too, that undercurrent of chaos, but he stayed focused, Pikachu sparking on his shoulder as they carved through early rounds. Then came the semi-finals draw, and fate, or maybe Tapu Lele pulling strings, paired them up. Ash Ketchum versus Guzma. The crowd hushed as they stepped onto the field, the sun dipping low over the ocean, casting long shadows that mirrored the darkness in Guzma's eyes. This wasn't just a match, it was a reckoning. Philosophies colliding like a thunderbolt against a first impression. Guzma led with his ace Golisopod, that massive mantis shrimp of a Pokémon, claws gleaming like polished obsidian, pincers primed for a poison jab that could fell a Tauros. Ash countered with Lycanroc, his dusk-form pride, the one who'd stared down its own savage instincts under that legendary green flash sunset. The battle erupted brutal, no holds barred, Golisopod's first impression slamming Lycanroc into the dirt, cracks spiderwebbing the stadium floor. Guzma laughed, a guttural bark echoing off the walls. "See that? Real power doesn't play nice? You and your school's a joke, kid? Cowardice wrapped in friendship ribbons?" Ash didn't flinch, his voice steady over the din. "Strength isn't about breaking everything, it's about standing up after." Pikachu tagged in next. But Guzma's beast was relentless. First impression after first impression, each hit a statement. Power through dominance, no mercy, no bonds. The air thickened with the scent of scorched earth and salty sweat. Pikachu dodging liquid metal spikes that pierced the ground like spears. Guzma's philosophy poured out with every command. Life's a grind where the weak get crushed. Trials are for losers who can't hack it. And Pokémon? Tools for the throne. But Ash's crew fought back, Incineroar roaring into the fray, Malama with the fist blazing hot against Golisopod's shell. The Mantis cracked jokes in Guzma's dialect, mimicking his boss's bravado, but fatigue set in. Philosophy met reality when Lycanroc returned, Accelerock blurring the lines between forms, countering with a stone edge that finally pierced Golisopod's vaunted pinchers. Guzma's grin faltered as his Pokémon staggered, loyalty shining through the pain. Not blind obedience, but a fierce partnership he'd buried under layers of rage. That's when it crumbled, right there, under the stadium lights. Golisopod refused a final desperate lunge, turning instead to nuzzle Guzma's leg, eyes meeting in a silent understanding. The boss froze, his invincible facade shattering like cheap glass. For the first time, the man who'd spat on the island challenge faced it head-on, his love for Pokémon raw and undeniable. He'd failed the trials not because he was weak, but because he'd let bitterness blind him to the joy of the fight. The bond that made Golisopod more than a weapon. You idiot," Guzma muttered, voice cracking, tears stinging as the ref called it. Ash wins. The stadium exploded, but not in boos. Cheers swelled for both, the crowd's reaction a tidal wave. Skull grunts stood stunned, hoods slipping back to reveal faces twisted in awe, not defeat. For years they'd followed Guzma's chaos as their identity, but witnessing their boss humbled, humanized, sparked something profound. Whispers turned to applause. A few grunts even rushed the field, not to riot, but to hoist Golisopod up in respect. This was the turning point, the crack in Team Skull's armor that let light in. Redemption not through sermons, but through the raw truth of battle. Guzma walked off not broken, but changed. Shoulders slumped, but gaze lifted, murmuring to his Pokémon about trying again, properly this time. In the end, Guzma's stand exposed the league's true strength. Not in vulnerability, but resilience, turning even the darkest hearts toward Alola's light. And as Ash advanced, the path ahead narrowed to one final unimaginable clash that would redefine championship forever. Next time, in Chapter 15, the impossible victory. Ash had just crushed Guzma's twisted vision of strength, his Incineroar standing tall amid the rubble of shattered pride, when the arena lights dimmed for the next clash. The crowd's roar swelled like a tropical storm, but all eyes locked on the semi-final bracket. Ash Ketchum versus Gladion, the silver-haired rival whose cold intensity had shadowed Alola from the shadows of Team Skull's ruins. This wasn't just another battle, it was the collision of two Lycanrocs, midday fire against dusk's unrelenting fury, a mirror match that would test every ounce of strategy Ash had scraped together through trials and heartaches. Gladion's dusk Lycanroc prowled the field first, its mane a wild cascade of crimson and black, eyes glowing with that predatory gleam honed from battles in Ultraspace's fringes. Ash countered with his own, Rockruff turned Lycanroc, the midday form that had stubbornly refused evolution until this very league. Its rocky hide scarred from Melamele Island's cliffs, fur spiked like sun-baked thorns. The air thickened with tension, the synthetic turf crunching under paws as Z-crystals glinted on their trainers' wrists. Gladion struck fast, commanding a counter to bait Ash's aggression. Lycanroc's claws slashed out in Accelerock, only for Gladion's beast to twist midair, doubling the pain right back with a mirrored strike that sent sparks flying across the stadium screens. You could feel the shift in the wind, that electric hum from the audience, as Ash adapted, his voice cutting through the din. Lycanroc, don't let up. Use your speed. But Gladion was steps ahead. His dusk Lycanroc unleashing Stone Edge, jagged rocks erupting like volcanic shrapnel, forcing Ash's partner to weave through the barrage. The crowd gasped as one stone clipped Lycanroc's shoulder, drawing a thin line of blood that glistened under the floodlights. Ash's eyes narrowed. He'd trained for this, nights on Akala's beaches, where Rockruff learned to counter the waves themselves. "Counter it!" he yelled, and there it was, the pivotal twist. Gladion's Lycanroc lunged with a brutal close combat, fists hammering like pistons, but Ash's beast absorbed the fury, its body coiling like a spring before exploding back with double the force. The impact echoed like thunder, Gladion's Lycanroc staggering, its breath ragged, mane matted with sweat. The strategic layers peeled back slowly, each move a chess piece in a game of rock, paper, scissors elevated to art. Gladion pressed with crunch, fangs sinking toward Ash's Lycanroc's throat, but the midday form darted low, Accelerock blurring into a counter setup that flipped the script again. Fans later dissected it, frame by frame. How Ash predicted the Z move bait, denying Gladion's black hole eclipse by forcing a switch to Lucario mid-rampage. Gladion's ace, sleek and aura-clad, hammered with Meteor Mash. But Ash recalled Lycanroc just in time, swapping to Rowlet for a Featherlight Seed Bomb disruption. The arena pulsed with chants. Ash, Gladion! As the battle dragged into overtime, Lycanrocs recalled and unleashed anew, their rivalry mirroring their trainers. Ash's unyielding optimism clashing against Gladion's armoured resolve, forged in the fires of family secrets and Lucamine's shadow. In the end, it was Lycanroc's final counter that sealed it. A desperate thrash from Gladion's exhausted warrior met with perfect retaliation. The double damage ripple, cracking the field and sending Dusk Lycanroc crumpling. Gladion knelt beside his fallen partner, a rare flicker of respect in his eyes as he recalled it, murmuring words lost to the roar. Ash rushed forward, not in triumph, but to check on the rival who'd pushed him further than any kahuna. The scoreboard flashed, Ash advances, but this victory hummed with something deeper, a crack in the unbreakable curse that had haunted fans since 1997. Ash Ketchum, eternal runner-up, now one step from rewriting history. September 15th, 2019. That date etched itself into Pokémon lore like a Zamove scar. Episode 140, Final Rivals, Ash and Gladion. Aired in Japan, and the internet didn't just break, it shattered. Twitter, now X, lit up with over 200,000 posts in the first hour. Memes flooding from Ash finally did it. Edits splicing his Carlos loss, with a Lola glory to fan art of Pikachu hoisting the trophy. Reddit's Our Pokémon hit record traffic, threads dissecting the Lycanroc duel ballooning to 50,000 upvotes. YouTube reactors from the US to the Philippines paused mid-sentence, jaws dropping as Ash's team, Pikachu's thunderous Gigavolt havoc, looming in preview, hinted at the impossible. Twitch streams crashed under viewer surges. Discord servers for Alola enthusiasts overflowed with voice chats echoing late into the night. Why did it hit like a magnitude 10 earthquake? 22 years of near misses had built a fortress of doubt. Orange League forfeit, Johto's heartbreak, Hoenn's tie, Sinnoh's last-second fumble, Unova's betrayal, Carlos's Alan eclipse. Each league end credits rolled with Ash staring at the stars, Pikachu on his shoulder, whispering promises unkept. Sun and Moon didn't ignore that weight, it leaned into it. Ash arrived in Alola cocky yet humbled, schoolboy amid legends, his captures earned through loss. Litten watching Stoutland fade into the waves, Rockruff defying Midnight's call, until it chose its own path. The Island Challenge stripped gym badges' shine, replacing them with Z-rings pulsing with Alola's soul, unity over conquest. Gladion's defeat wasn't plot armor, it was payoff, counter symbolizing Ash turning foes' strength against them. Just as he'd mirrored Kukoi's passion, outgrown Guzma's rage. Global reactions poured in waves. Japanese fans trended Hakuto Satoshi champion, Matsuri fireworks sinking to the episode's climax. Western viewers, scarred by XY's heartbreak, flooded forums. It feels earned because Sun and Moon grew Ash up. School forged bonds deeper than badges. Trials tested heart over power. Veterans who'd stuck since Kanto wept openly in comment sections. Newcomers discovered a mature saga tackling death, like Mallow's misty farewell or Lily's fractured family. Nielsen ratings spiked 15% in key markets, Pokémon Twitter's engagement rivaling world championships. Even critics, once decrying the kiddie art shift, conceded this was catharsis, Ash's trophy gleaming not as fan service, but as evolution's reward. That night, as confetti rained and Tapu Koko's silhouette danced on the horizon, Ash stood atop the podium, Pikachu sparking triumphantly. The curse obliterated, Alola's first champion breathed free, 22 years dissolving in one impossible roar. But whispers stirred in the afterglow. What happens when the league crown meets its true test? The clash that eclipses all. Tune in next for Chapter 16, the ultimate exhibition match, where dreams collide in a battle that redefines everything. Ash had just clinched his spot as Alola's first champion, his Lycanroc's counter-shattering Gladions in a blaze of defiance that left the stadium roaring. But as the confetti settled and the trophy gleamed in his hands, you could feel the air thicken with something unfinished. The league was over, yet Professor Kukui stepped forward, his eyes alight with that familiar fire, proposing what would become the true heart of Sun and Moon's finale, a full 6-on-6 battle, no holds barred, teacher against student, dream against destiny. This wasn't just a victory lap or some polite exhibition. Kukui, the man who'd masked his own championship soul as the masked royal, had poured his life's passion into forging the Alola League from nothing. He'd battled kahunas, stared down ultra beasts, and now, with Ash as the undisputed winner, he craved one pure clash to test if this kid from Kanto had truly earned the crown. The crowd sensed it too, whispers rippling through the stands like ocean waves on Melemele shore. Ash's league run had been gritty, tactical, a grind through Guzma's chaos and Gladion's precision. But this was symphony, a full-team symphony where every Pokémon Ash had bonded with in Alola's sun-soaked trials would sing against Kukui's elite squad. Kukui's Incineroar led the charge, that hulking firecat a mirror to Ash's own, born from the same streets of poverty and perseverance. Their Malama with Zy-Power clashed in explosions that shook the arena's foundations, flames licking the sky as if Alola itself approved. Ash countered with his Incineroar, the one mentored by old Stoutland in his final breaths. A Pokémon who'd evolved not just in body, but in unbreakable loyalty. Rowlet darted in next, sleepy eyes sharpening into a whirlwind of leafage against Kukui's Crabbraw, the air humming with the scent of fresh foliage and salty sea spray. Naganadel's toxic threads wove deadly patterns, only for Ash's Melmetal to hammer back with magnetic fury, steel clanging like temple bells. But the battle built, layer by layer, each exchange a testament to Alola's spirit, not rigid gyms but fluid trials where Z moves unlocked souls. Lycanroc's stone edges carved the field, Torracat's blaze kicked roared through defences, and Pikachu zipped like lightning incarnate. Kukui's team pushed Ash to his limits, forcing recalls and strategies honed over 146 episodes of schoolyard scrapes and island pilgrimages. You saw it in the sweat on their faces, the way Pikachu's cheeks sparked brighter with every near miss, the professor's grin never fading even as his Pokémon faltered. Then as the dust cleared from Pikachu's thunderbolt, felled Kukai's last stand. The stadium lights flickered. An electric hum pierced the cheers, golden sparks crackling from the heavens. Tapu Koko descended, the electric guardian of Melemele, its shell pulsing with otherworldly power. This wasn't interference, it was coronation. The Tapu who'd gifted Ash his Z-ring in the series' earliest storms, who'd sparred with Pikachu in thunderous rivalries, now entered the fray uninvited, elevating a mortal showdown into something divine. Pikachu faced it alone on that scarred battlefield, the weight of Alola pressing down. Tapu Koko unleashed its guardian of Alola, a tempest of raw electric guardianship that warped the air, shells spinning like sacred shields, bolts forking across the sky in a display that felt alive, breathing. Pikachu, unyielding, channeled every volt surge through its veins from Pallet Town to these islands. 10 million volt thunderbolt, a Z move amplified beyond reckoning. The collision was cataclysmic, yellow plasma erupting in slow motion glory, frames so fluid they captured every crackle, every ripple in the fabric of reality. Sparks danced like fireflies in a hurricane, the ground quaking as if Pele's fury met Raiden's wrath. This was Sun and Moon's animation peak, a symphony of hand-drawn mastery where light bent, shadows leaped, and power felt tangible, visceral, like you could reach out and feel the ozone burn. In that moment, Tapu Koko wasn't just testing Ash, it was acknowledging him, the guardian who'd protected these islands since time immemorial, clashing with Pikachu not to destroy, but to affirm. As the dust settled and Tapu Koko withdrew, with a nod of ethereal respect, the torch passed, from ancient deity to the boy who'd grown through Alola's trials, who'd faced death's shadow in Stoutland's passing, Lily's grief, Guzma's broken dreams. Ash wasn't just league champion, he was Alola's new protector, Pikachu at his side, Z-ring glowing like a crown, and as Ash stood there, Pikachu on his shoulder, the weight of it all sinking in, you knew this was the finale Sun and Moon deserved. Not a trophy hoist, but a divine blessing on a journey forever changed. What happens when that champion leaves the islands behind, bridging Alola, Kanto, and beyond? Stick around for Chapter 17, Alola, Kanto, and Beyond, where the horizons expand in ways you won't see coming. As the echoes of Tapu Koko's thunder faded from the stadium, and Professor Kukui extended his hand in that unbreakable grin of respect, Ash Ketchum didn't just claim another title, he sealed the end of an era. The Alola League was over, his team battered but unbreakable, Pikachu perched triumphantly on his shoulder. Yet in that electric hush you could feel the tide turning, the sun dipping lower over Melemele Island, pulling everyone toward paths they'd only glimpsed through the haze of trials and Z-moves. The days that followed blurred into a haze of celebrations, but laced with something sharper, a quiet ache. Ash and his classmates gathered one last time at Pokémon school, the white sands of Hawali City stretching out like a canvas wiped clean. Professor Kukui stood at the forefront, his lab coat fluttering in the breeze, announcing what no one wanted to hear. The school's chapter was closing. Not out of failure, but fulfillment. These kids, once fumbling through island challenges, had grown into guardians of Alola itself. Now the world beckoned, each with a fire kindled in those classrooms and kahuna trials. Lily was the first to step forward, her Clefairy, Snowy, nuzzled close, a far cry from the girl who once recoiled from any touch. Her family's shadows had lifted, Lusamine reformed, Gladion charting his own rival's course. But her father, Moon, lost to Ultra Space's grasp, still haunted her dreams. With a resolve forged in wormholes and beast hunts, she declared her path, a journey beyond Alola's islands, chasing leads through Kalos archives and distant professors. She'd document every anomaly, every flicker of ultra energy, turning her grief into a beacon, As she boarded that fiery, white dress billowing like a sail. You saw it, the researcher emerging, not just studying Pokémon, but seeking to mend the fractures between worlds. Lana followed, her Primarina's melody lingering on the waves. The ocean had always called her, from Poplio's first bubbles to hauling massive Pokémon from the deep. No more school desks for her. She slung her fishing rod over her shoulder, eyes fixed on the horizon. A trek across Alola's surrounding seas, mapping uncharted currents, befriending waylord pods and hunting legendary depths. Poplio had evolved through her unyielding patience, and now Lana would too, captain of her own vessel, waves crashing as her applause. She waved from the dock, that trademark hook in her smile, promising postcards from places where the sea whispered secrets only she could hear. Kiawe burned brightest in the farewell fire, his Turtonator's shell scarred from 1,000 Mantine surf rides. Back to Akala's slopes he'd go, honouring his grandfather's legacy at the Whaler Fire trial. But not as a student, as a kahuna in waiting, training dancers and fire types under volcanic skies. His passion had tempered Ash's own, those midnight practices on Paniola Ranch echoing in every step. Mallow, apron dusted with spices, hugged him tight before heading to her family's restaurant, Zarina kicking up earth in excitement. She'd blend Pokémon cuisine with forest lore, turning her grassy haven into a haven for travellers, plates steaming with lessons from Tsengel and the Lost Elder. Sophocles tinkered to the last, Toga Damaru spinning like a victory lap, inventions piled high in his bag, gadgets for Vikavolt's thunder, beacons for lost Pokémon. He'd burrow into Ula Ula's tech labs, cousin Malane at his side, pushing Alola's edges toward innovation. No more hiding behind screens, this inventor would light up the grid himself. And then Ash, the boy who'd washed ashore via Mimi's lottery, towel-dried by destiny. Kanto called him home, Pallet Town's winds carrying whispers of unfinished roads. Not as the wide-eyed kid who'd lost 8 leagues. This was a champion, Alola's first, Pikachu's cheeks sparking with world stage hunger. He'd mastered Z-Rings, tamed Legendary's whims, faced Death Shadow in Stoutland's final lessons. Returning wasn't retreat, it was launch. Professor Oak waited with evolutions unspoken, Gary with eyes sharpened by rivalry. Ash packed his cap, Rowlet dozing in his bag, Lycanroc's stone gaze steady, Incineroar flexing like a vow, ready for indigo plateaus. Orange Isles revisited or horizons unknown. They stood together at the cliff's edge that final evening, the sun a molten sea crystal melting into the Pacific. Melemele Island's silhouette sharpened against the blaze, oranges bleeding into purples, Tapu Koko's silhouette flickering approval from afar. Pokémon School loomed behind, not a cage of desks, but a forge. Here, amid malasadas and beach volleyball, they'd learned life's true trials. Loss in Lily's tears, perseverance in Lana's halls, invention in Sophocles' sparks. Kukui's ring glinted as he spoke of growth beyond badges, friendship as the grand kahuna, maturity the ultimate Z move. The school had been no gimmick. It was life's unyielding curriculum, turning rivals into family, fears into flights. Look back to the premiere, that bouncy premiere on November 17th, 2016. Ash tumbling from the sky, art style a whirlwind of squash and stretch whimsy, eyes popping like roulets, chins stretching in comic glee. Critics scoffed at the shift from XY's sleek polish, calling it kiddie caricature. But as arcs deepened, Ultra Beast's ripping portals, Guzma's fractured roar, Kukui's arena quake, the style matured with them. Lines softened yet sharpened emotion. Pikachu's Z-move crackled visceral. Lily's breakdowns pierced the heart. What began as playful sketches evolved into Alola's soul, expressive, alive, a mirror to growth. Fans embraced it, memes eternalized those elastic faces, proving the heart outshone any gloss. As the sun vanished, silhouettes merged with the dusk, laughter fading into waves. Ash turned last, Pikachu's tail a final spark. Alola had reshaped him. But the world stretched infinite. What echoes would sun and moon leave rippling outward? That's the legacy waiting to unfold. As Ash waves goodbye from the deck of that ship, the Alolan sun dipping low over Melemele Island, his classmates scattering to their own horizons, Lily chasing shadows through ultra space, Lana vanishing into the endless blue with her Primarina. You sense it. This isn't just an ending. It's the spark that reignited everything. Sun and Moon didn't just wrap up a season, it reshaped the Pokémon anime forever, turning sneers into reverence, proving that what fans once called a flop was hiding a masterpiece all along. You remember the uproar back in late 2016? Forums exploded the moment those first chibi-style episodes hit. Ash in school, skipping gyms for trials and Z-moves. No brooding rivals, no epic badge quests, just beach days, classroom antics, and Pokémon doing homework. It felt like betrayal. Veterans who'd grown up on Orange Island's grit or Diamond and Pearl intensity called it kiddie slop, a desperate grab for toddlers, while the soul of the series withered. Ratings dipped in some markets, memes branded it Pokémon Babysitters Club. Critics pointed to the softer animation, the slapstick gags with Team Skull grunts fumbling like clowns, and Ash's laid-back vibe, no fire in his eyes like XY's Kalos Blaze. Why trade continental conquest for island-hopping slice of life? It seemed the anime had lost its way, chasing trends instead of battles. But rewind a few years and listen to those same voices now. PokeTubers who once rage quit repost highlight reels with captions like underrated gem. Reddit threads from 2023 dissect it as peak character writing. Why the flip? Peel back the sunny veneer, and Sun and Moon pulses with raw maturity no prior series dared touch. Death isn't danced around, it's confronted head-on. Stoutland's quiet passing on that rainy beach, Litten cradling its mentor's scarf before evolving into Incineroar, hits like a freight train. Lily's arc rips open family trauma, her mother's obsession with ultra beasts fracturing their world, her own terror of touching Pokémon, born from witnessing her father's vanishing into another dimension. These aren't side plots, they're the heartbeat. Guzma isn't a cartoon villain. He's a broken kid, crushed by failed trials, lashing out at Kukui, the man who embodied the strength he craved, by trying to torch the Alola League itself. Even Team Rocket evolves, their schemes laced with pathos amid the chaos. That experimental core, it wasn't laziness, it was liberation. Alola's Island Challenge ditched the gym grind for personal trials. Kiawe's fiery dance atop Mauna Lava. Sophocles hacking Togedemaru's spikes into tech wonders. Mallow nurturing Tsarina from a stubborn Steenie. Ash doesn't steamroll badges. He earns a Z-ring from Tapu Koko itself. That electric guardian, zapping him awake to his potential. School life? It's the glue. Watch those classmates banter over Malasadas, Roulet snoring in Ash's backpack, Poplio's bubbly antics turning into Lana's fierce resolve. It's family forged in shared absurdity, Rockruff defying evolution, until the League's midnight Lycanroc clash with Gladians, Pikachu's endless rivalries with Mimikyu's shadowy grudges, or Tapu Koko's thunderous interventions. Fans hated the filler at first, but that was the point. Pokémon thrives in the everyday, not just spotlights. Fast forward to Pokémon Journeys, launching in 2019, right on Sun and Moon's heels. You see the blueprint everywhere. No more single region lock-in, Ash World touring across 9 leagues, Go snagging beasts like a living Pokédex. Multiple companions stick around, Chloe's slow burn growth mirroring Lily's, Go's ambition echoing Gladian's edge. Experimental arcs explode, time travel with Eternatus, multiverse Mewtwo clashes, even revisiting Kanto with matured Brock and Misty. The chibi whimsy? Toned down, but echoed in Go's comic relief captures. Mature stakes persist, Lucario's sacrificial glow, Ash's World Coronation series, demanding true mastery beyond kid gloves. Journeys doesn't just nod to Sun and Moon, it canonizes the shift, permanent now, episodic heart amid tournaments, companions as equals, not rotating fodder. Without Alola's gamble, Journeys might have been another roped region slog. Instead, it's the most ambitious run yet. Ash finally stacking that first official championship into a global throne. Think about it. You grew up chasing the league dream. Ash perpetually one badge from heartbreak. Sun and Moon whispers, that's not the fire, the real win? Lycanroc's howl under Whaler Volcano Moon, Incineroar's blazing passion born from loss. The class piling into Kukoi's living room for post-trial feasts. That exhibition match finale, Pikachu's Gigavolt havoc, shattering Kukoi's Incineroar in front of roaring crowds. Tapu Guardians crashing the party, its divine payoff. But the Soul Saver? Daring to say Pokémons about the bonds that outlast trophies. The bad series, the one fans abandoned, injected vulnerability into a formula grown stale. It humanized Ash, not invincible, but teachable, returning to Kanto not defeated but whole, cap tilted with quiet confidence. Sun and Moon lingers because Alola taught us this. The journey's treasures aren't Azik crystals or champion cloaks. They're the Ohana you claim, the sleepy rowlet nudging your shoulder at dawn, the salty ocean spray as Lana's team dives deep, the electric hum of Guardians watching over it all. In a franchise ballooning toward its 28th season, that message endures, pulling even the harshest critics back to those sun-soaked shores. What started as division ended in unity, proving the anime's heart beats strongest when it strays from the path. What did you think of this journey? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this changed your perspective or taught you something new, consider subscribing for more mind-expanding content. And if you know someone who would find this as fascinating as you did, share it with them. These are the kind of conversations that matter.